what happened to me is that it's kind of a funny story about Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. When I was teaching at my center, I developed a great relationship with the head minister, Paul Gagne, and he had asked me to come and teach classes at the Buford Highway location. So I did. I was teaching some classes, and into one of my classes came in this gentleman, and when we saw each other, we knew that we knew each other. So anyways, immediately this romance, that was probably the most amazing romance of my life, and you came to our wedding because your wife married us. It absolutely rocked my world. I felt for the third time that love that I had felt with my two children. So I knew that this was the man that was the love of my life. So this relationship begins to develop in 2008. We got married in 2010, and then things began to get rocky. And they began to get rocky because at the same time that I got married to him, the same year, I had my youngest son, Spencer, began a drug adventure that lasted 4 years. While Spencer was going through his drug journey, this is a child that I gave birth to, that I know his brilliance and his magnificence, and my work was to make sure that I helped him work through his issue in the way that I knew how to, which was not the typical way, but I'm not going to get so much into that story because what really is important here is that Ken was a wonderful teacher for me because a lot of his insecurities, his issues started getting kicked up when Spencer was going through his journey, primarily jealousy. So as Ken's jealousy got activated and a few other things, I'm a teacher of spirituality. Let me tell you how to fix your stuff so that you will stop being triggered. You have been coming to my courses. He assisted in my Power of Awareness workshops for 2 years. He came to every class that I taught religiously, and he's reciting back to me the things that I'm teaching. And I'm saying, I know those things, but live it. And then I began to realize, okay, why am I having a reaction to his reactions? Something is off here. And that's when I went to the next time that I said to Jesus, okay, there's got to be another way. I know all this stuff. I teach this stuff. I've been teaching it for years. And how is it that I can be with Spencer in a way that is really gentle and loving? I'm being the presence of love with Spencer, but with Ken, I'm having these reactions. My ego's getting activated. And that's when, as beautiful as this is, that's when I was reading the course and came upon the Manual for Teachers. In the Manual for Teachers, I'm just going to read you the characteristics that the manual says are the characteristics of one who embodies what God is, what love is. This is what Jesus embodied while he was living. Trust. Trust, but the trust of God is the trust that says that not only can nobody hurt you, but there is nothing about you that can be hurt. So it begins to teach you that you're not a body. It begins to let you know, even though you've been reading it before, here you begin to embody this, and you got to begin to accept. So if I'm not a body and Ken's not a body, then what the hell's going on here? Why am I getting activated? When I know all this spiritual stuff, then I had to practice the next characteristic, which is honesty. But it's not honesty about telling the truth. This is honesty that says, are you being consistent? Are you being consistent with being the presence of love, of trusting that nobody can hurt you, and there's nothing about you that could ever be hurt because you're not even real? And I'm like, oh, okay. No, I didn't study that in the Power of Awareness. You didn't give me that in that course. And of course, Jesus in its beautiful wisdom, I wasn't ready for that. I first needed to get my ego all spiritualized, and I'm going to explain to you why. When we start the journey of awakening, it's only our ego that is becoming spiritualized. What is spirit in us doesn't need to go to classes and workshops and doesn't need to go anywhere to know what it is. There's a part inside of us that is pure spirit. It knows what it is. But we don't live from spirit. We operate from ego. And ego is everything we believe that we are. So we have to realize that the beginning of the journey is spiritualizing our ego. Then, and that's what's called self-awareness. We're becoming aware that we have a self, a higher self, but the one that's becoming aware of our higher self is our ego, who of course wants to become enlightened. Who here wants to be enlightened? I did, I couldn't wait. And I thought when I became enlightened, I was gonna grow wings and halos, and I was gonna become a millionaire, I was gonna float above all the little people, and I was gonna be, you know, special. Can you guys relate? And then I had the perfect teacher. I had Ken. Ken was the absolute most perfect teacher, because I had to fall in love with somebody so much to feel the intensity of such a pure love that it would activate this intense fear of losing him. Up until then, if somebody was going to leave my life, I'm like, bye-bye, because I was very good at protecting myself from hurting. I was really good at not letting love hurt me. But with Ken, oh my gosh, love began to hurt. And I needed to begin to understand that what was hurting was my block to love. My block to love was registering with me. So I had to become honest and realize that if I was in fear, I was not being honest because I was not being consistently the presence of love. Do you see how that works? The next characteristic is tolerance. And tolerance means no judgment. You tolerate that everybody is where they are because guess what? They're not real either. Those bodies are not real. These are projections that we have put out there to reflect back to us an aspect of ourselves. So you tolerate what is out there because it is teaching you what you need to learn about yourself. And it was like, damn, I wanted to teach him to be tolerant, and now I'm having to learn that I got to tolerate that he's not even there. Do you see how this really begins to mess with your mind? The next characteristic is gentleness. And gentleness is because if you know that nothing can hurt you, why would you be anything other than gentle? That's how you become like a little child, gentle. Because in your tolerance, you realize he's confused. He thinks I'm real. He thinks I'm upsetting him. And if I think his upset can upset me, then I don't know what I am. So I needed to become gentle, and in my gentleness, I needed to just let him be. These are all things that I could do with my son, amazingly enough. Why? Because I had no fear of death. Remember, I had learned about death before. And when my son started doing drugs and everybody was wigging out about him possibly overdosing, and his dad wanted to send him to treatment, I had no fear of death because I knew I wasn't real. I've been studying this information for quite a while. I'm having communication with Jesus, and I know Jesus is as alive as can be, and he doesn't have a body. So I was really comfortable that we're not bodies. We're energy appearing as physical form, but we're not really bodies. Even quantum science is teaching us that. So I was comfortable that Spencer was energy, but not that Ken was energy. That began to show me my spiritualized ego, the part of me that knew spirituality, and by gosh, you should be living it, because I taught it to you. But where was I with all of that? My ego knew spirituality. So my soul was present with Spencer, my ego was present with Ken. Fascinating. Then I had to go to the next lesson, which is joy. With Spencer, I was always experiencing a state of joy. I could be with him no matter what he was doing, and I did some crazy things with that child of mine while he was doing drugs. Things that most parents would say, what? Maybe the police would say, what the hell? But I did them because I was following guidance. I had a guidance that told me everything that I needed to do with Spencer. And I trusted that with Spencer because I wasn't afraid of death. But with Ken, I was afraid of somebody leaving me. Isn't that funny? I'm not afraid of my son dying and leaving, but I'm afraid of a man leaving me. It was fascinating, fascinating. Then I went to the next characteristic, which is defenselessness. If we defend ourselves, we don't know truth. If we don't know truth, we're not trusting. If we're not trusting, we're not gentle. If we're not gentle, we're not honest. If we're not honest, we're not experiencing joy. And we're not tolerating. And it was like, oh my God. So every time I was trying to defend my position, my spiritual knowingness, all I was receiving from Ken was resistance. And of course, guidance was telling me, If you're defending it, you don't believe it. Because if you believe it, if you believed it, you could forgive him, for he knows not what he's doing. But if you know what you're doing, you don't need to defend and prove anything to anybody. Why? Because there's nobody out there. They're just a reflection of you. He's just showing you an aspect of yourself that you need to heal. And the conversations that I would have with Jesus were pretty funny, because I would be getting, okay, Missy, you think you're all spiritualized. You're not. Come off your spiritual pedestal. And I was like, but Jesus, you put me there. You gave me a course to teach. You made me special. And Jesus was like, no, I didn't make you special. You made yourself special. I just gave you truth to teach, and you thought that that made you somebody. And I was like, damn, I hate it when he's right. Then I went to the next characteristic, which is generosity. And only those who know truth can be generous, because there's nothing you would want to keep for yourself, because nothing is real. So what are you holding on to? What is it that you're holding on to, attaching yourself to, being defined by? Because the heart that knows, the heart that is fully open, is a generous heart, because there is nothing it would want to withhold from somebody else. Because if you're withholding it, you don't know that you are the creator of your reality. Therefore, you don't know that you're abundant. And if you don't know that you're abundant and you're trying to hold on to something, you are actually living from a place of lack. And I went, oh, seriously? So now I've got to be generous and give of everything? Okay, the next lesson came. And Ken was a very well-to-do man. When we first met, he was like, I want to share everything that I have with you. What is mine is yours. But he had some issues with money. He had some fears around money. He thought I was cheating with him. Jealousy kicked in, and then he thought I was using him for his money. And no matter how much I tried to defend myself and say, show me the credit card receipts, please show me the bank statement, because I had made such an effort of making sure that I never used anything that he provided, other than he paid for the mortgage and he paid for the car and he paid for the groceries. I'm like, show me where. Oh, you are being condescending. Please, no, show me where. Oh, you think you're so enlightened? And I realized, oh my gosh, this makes no sense. I'm defending myself against somebody who really has a story that I cannot penetrate. And I couldn't penetrate it because I need to learn that I needed to be generous. And I had to face one of my fears. Because when I married him and he said, I'm going to take care of you, I closed my center and I began to not teach so much. And then my son starts doing drugs, and I had another son at the time who was failing high school. And I needed to focus on these boys, so I wasn't making much of an income. I'm being taken care of, and I've got these boys that really need me, and I'm going, I have to be generous. So I said to Ken, please do a post-nup. I want you to know that your money is safe. So we did. A couple of weeks later, or months later actually, he got very activated again. I said, please take my name off of all of your accounts. And we did. And that still wasn't enough. So I was practicing, that's okay, I don't need this. I am going to be taken care of. Releasing and letting go. All the while, I've got a son that I am not concerned about him. I'm feeling totally and completely supported. And then I had my teacher, Ken. And then came the next characteristic, patience. And this patience is not your average patience. Be patient for 15 minutes. Wait for your order. This is the patience that says that if you are eternal, what is the hurry? If you don't get it done in this lifetime, you got 47 more to come, or 47,000 more. So it's a patience that comes with knowing that time is not real. And I'm going, all right, this is a lot of lessons. This is a lot of work. Then came the next one, faithfulness. Was I really being faithful to the truth? Was I really being faithful to God? Was I really being faithful to what I came to do? Because the Course tells us that we have a function. I am the light of the world. We are here. I am spirit. The Course is telling us that we come here to bring salvation to the world. Am I being faithful to the truth that I'm here to be salvation to the world? And here I am condemning this man for accusing me of things that are really not happening because he's not even real? Let me tell you, my head was spinning, but my spiritualized ego was getting undone. And there was a falling off of my spiritual pedestal, which began the process of humiliating me, because I was so embarrassed that here I'm teaching things that I'm not really living 100%. I can with my son, so I had evidence that what I knew worked, but I couldn't with him. And so the teaching continued through the manual for teachers. Then came the last characteristic, which is open-mindedness. And open-mindedness means I do not think for myself. I keep my mind open to hear only the voice of God. I mean, you see how this is not what the world teaches us about these characteristics.